Hello, Michael Prince here, Clinic Manager Coach. Today's video is going to be a nuts and bolts video all about data tracking, how to get the correct data into your data tracking software from your client or patient management system. So follow along with me as I go through a couple of softwares we use in our clinic, how we keep data, and how we look at procedures to make sure our data is accurate. Hello, Michael Prince here, Office Manager Coach. We're going to talk today about how to get the correct data and stats that you want from your EHR or your patient retention system into your data tracking software. And we're not going to talk necessarily, we're going to talk nuts and bolts a little bit, but the majority of what we're going to talk about is the procedure around how to do that. I'm looking right now in a software that we use in our clinic called TrackStat. I'm looking at our weekly stats report. You can see here it's broken down Monday through Saturday, or Monday through Sunday. So you can see the 3rd of November through the 9th. It stops at the end of last month. So this is all complete data as I sit here on the 2nd of December. You can see it's tracking my different leads, and you can see it's tracking conversion, what happens with those leads when they come into the office. It breaks those down by types of referral, and then it breaks it down into retention. So we had 334 people on our schedule, 30 didn't make it. To make it 304, 91% of those made it. So this is our compliance percentage. This is all data we track to make sure we're doing well as an office. We're not going by vibes, we're going by data. Our net momentum is simple. It's just the number of cancellations plus the number of non-renewals, people who had a report here but didn't sign up. See, this is 11 reports, 10 signups means 1 non-renewal. You add those together and you subtract them from your completed new patient starts. You subtract that, and from you add your reactivation number in there too. So 1 plus 1 equals 2, minus 2 equals a 0 net momentum. So we grew 0, even though we lost 2 patients. We gained 2 patients, right? We lost 1, but we had a really good, so we had plus 7, minus 2, minus 2. So that's our net momentum week to week. Those stats zoom out monthly, quarterly, annually, and this is how we make decisions for our office, right? So how do I get these numbers to be what I want them to be? Obviously, I do the setup and everything that needs to be done here where I'm telling it what to look at, what to track, how to sort them out. That all happens in here. If you were to use TrackStat, we train you. I'm a trainer at TrackStat, so we do train people on how to use this and how to build these reports. I'm also the office manager at our clinic, so I've used this years before I started training on it. The reason I started training is because I had used other softwares, and I did not like how they worked. I really liked how I'm able to control and build and do things in this one, and asked if I could help train other clinics on how to do it. So that's what I'm doing. But the key thing is the nuts and bolts on how to build the reports in here is all something that you do through their help section. You learn how to manage all that stuff. It's all there for you, custom reports and everything. It's also something you can do by having them do like training calls with you. But the nuts and bolts on internally in your practice, how do I get what I need from here? Don't worry, this is not a patient. I'm HIPAA compliant. This is our office supplement. All these charges that get put in here, all the appointments that get put on the schedule, this won't have any because it's not an actual person. All this information that gets put into, ours is ChiroTouch. This is the software that tracks all of our patient activity every day when they come in our office. All of that data, if it gets put in here, how do we make sure it's getting spit out into this website the way we want it to? And it all has to do with the data entry on the front end. It all has to do with your procedures, right? So we have our procedures that we use to determine what is going to get put in to a patient's ledger or added to a patient's schedule whenever they have something happen on the schedule, whenever they get scheduled out for new visits, whenever something like that happens. I'm going to show you an example right now of a policy that we have. This is in our wiki. It's something that I won't give you too much info on right now because the wiki is a whole nother video topic on its own. But charges, right? So we have something called Restored Health. It's a nutrition program in our office. This is the charge we put in whenever they pay for the sign up at the beginning. And then they have a procedure for if they make monthly payments. It's just a little bit different, right? So it's got the code, the actual like CPT code that's required by law. And then we've got an addition for it, which when you add a little dash, you make your little additions to go ahead and specify it, because otherwise they would both have the same code and our tracking software would not track them, right? So our total price is listed on the RHP charge. So we put the total price on these. So whenever they pay $2,100 a month or whatever, that is added to this charge. So then when they come in for the activities that they're doing, we have $0 charges put in for their day 2 appointments, their blood work appointment, their supplements that they buy, the Restored Health check-in, and all of those things. The payments, if they're paying monthly, will pay off this total cost of $2,100. So we don't have to put in each of these different items don't have to have their own amount that they cost, right? Because we are able to use our overall cost here to make that payment or to make that charge go into their ledger so that the payments are covering something. That is just one example. This is just one example of how you can how we use charges to make sure we have an output. And I have that kind of input going in on the front end for every single example that you see on this report, right? So I'm not going to click any of these because it's going to show you the names of patients that I don't want to show you. But you can see if I click here, I'm going to show you that my patient visits is specifically tracking all these appointment purposes for anything people come in for that has an adjustment on it. If it says adjustment, it gets counted as a patient visit. And so when I go in to do that, I'm doing this where I'm clicking the adjustments to add them. Now, what that means is if somebody gets put on the schedule and they come in for an appointment, and I add them for an appointment and I put it in as a consultation or I put it in for something like that, something else like that, and I don't put adjustment as one of the purposes, it's not going to track it. So those purposes being put in correctly is a major part of making sure that that data gets pushed into TrackStat correctly. Okay, so now we're going to look at the charges that we put in and why it's so critical. So I needed to track certain activities that are happening by certain doctors in our office separately. So to do that correctly, there's several ways you could do it. And the way we chose to do it was to use a service code specifically for each doctor. And that's what you're looking at here, right? So these Hill Renew service codes, or Renew-HR1. So the renewal plan renewals aren't required for insurance or anything like that. This is all internal, so I could put whatever I wanted. So the code is Renew-HR1, and I had to make them separate for each report. So the first time a patient comes in, so the first report a patient ever comes in for is called a report of findings. That's a separate thing. The next time they come in, after they've completed their initial care plan, they get an R1 or a report 1. When they complete that care plan, they get a report 2. When they complete that care plan, they get a report 3. They go through this process, every single report, until they are either considered a corrective, which is weekly or more, a maintenance, which is monthly, or a wellness, which is every other week, right? So that's how we determine first of all, it's by the number of care plans they've had, and then it gets put into what their frequency is what determines these things. So that it allows me to use this system. I'll show you in my TrackStat here. So if I go back to my custom reports, I'm going to pull up a doctor-specific retention report, right? So here it is. So here you're looking at all the doctors and their retention based on the retention for the whole clinic, based on which report they actually performed. So I can see that the R1 conversions were 75% in July. They were 88% in August. They were 100% in September. So these R1s, first report after the initial care plan, 84% total going through the last, 6 months. You can see the R2, which would be that next re-report, so to speak. And then here, 103% at R3, 89% at R4. And when we get down into the wellness and maintenance, it starts to look a little bit like a 95 and 88 there for the corrective. So I also have this same thing available for each doctor. So you can see the retention report for the one doctor, Wasson. So here's this one. And it's going to break down the same exact thing, but instead of having it be the whole clinic, it's just his patients, right? So we can look at and not only see as a clinic, how well do we do at each phase of care for each patient? We can also see, does any one doctor do better or worse in these specific phases of care than the other doctors? So we can see that there's a lower percentage at that R3, but there's also a much lower number of patients that are receiving it, right? But if we come up here where he's getting 84 of these people on the R1, maybe we can raise this to be better than that 79. We really want an 85 or better on this R1. We would really like and the ROF conversions are really good, 80. So they get signed up on that first care plan, but we want to try to work on making them even better on that first re-report, okay? And so anyway, all that to say, the point of this is, and this is kind of the number one in the nuts and bolts series for how to use your EHR and a data software. A lot of times you want to look at a data software and you want it to just do what you want for you automatically. But any software that you use to track data or to get stats for your clinic is going to require you to create procedure on the front end to be able to get that data input originally. Whether you're inputting all that data manually by typing in names and doing all that stuff, or you're doing something like this where you're going into the patient's ledger and you're saying, okay, they saw Dr. Hill for that R1, so I'm going to put in a R1, so find it. It's going to be, I'll bring it over here, you can see it. I'm going to put in Hill's name. They got an R1, that's a renewal, so instead I'm going to go back. R1 Hill, there it is. I'm going to select it. I'm going to put it on their ledger. So now in the future, when they go in to see this, they're going to see that this doctor gave this patient the report on this date. So errors are going to come from the data entry on the front end, as well as the way you set it up on the back end. So both of those things have to be done well. And the data entry obviously is internal. And you can get some help from your software companies and people like that to help you. But it's internal, and the data entry part is. And then the stat tracking, that's external. That's something you get your software company to help. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just a little bit of the beginning of how we make sure our data is coming through correctly into our tracking software. There will be more videos moving forward that's going to dig even deeper into some specifics on how we do this, but it's critical that the data entry at the beginning gives you what you want on the back end, and to always remember that. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please share it with somebody who you think could benefit from this information, and please subscribe to these videos on YouTube so you don't miss any. And if you're interested in learning a little bit about our coaching and how to get some direct, specific insights into maximizing your practice and your ability to manage your practice or your office, you can go to kmichaelprince.com, check out the description links that are down there. So thanks so much, and we will see you next time. Bye.